Naruto. Start with 3 magatama and cultivate Kushina. Chapter 31. Afternoon. Luyun took Kushina to the small river where they had practiced before. His treading water training still needs to be improved, while the shadow clone stayed on the shore and continued to instruct Kushina in throwing. Amazing. You can actually walk on the river. How did you do that? Looking at the original body on the water, Kushina couldn't help asking. Didn't I tell you about climbing a tree before? Treading water is an advanced version of climbing a tree. You need to learn to climb a tree before you can learn to tread water. The shadow clone showed her what climbing a tree was, and the figure standing upside down on the tree trunk made Kushina drop her jaw. I want to learn, I want to learn. Teach me how to climb a tree. Kushina's face was full of excitement. Take it step by step. First learn the throwing technique, at least you have to hit the target every time, then I'll teach you how to climb a tree. The shadow clone glared at her fiercely. Ah, okay then. After practicing for half an afternoon, Kushina suddenly dropped the kunai and proposed. Luyun, let's have a fight. I want to see how big the gap is between us. She felt that she might not be Luyun's opponent, but she couldn't help but want to try. Are you itching for a fight? Luyun asked seriously after a slight pause. Humph. Who's itching for a fight? Are you sure you can win? Kushina snorted coldly, her little face full of dissatisfaction. You can't even beat a worthless genin, and you still want to fight me. Luyun deliberately ridiculed her. In fact, even if he didn't make a move that time, Kushina could still defeat the opponent. The reason why I said this was mainly to stimulate her and give her the motivation to practice and grow. It's always good to have more self-protection power. Tisk. I was just too careless that time and was fooled by the substitution technique. If we really fight, he will definitely not be my opponent. Oh my, which little cutie was crying at that time? Is there any need to cry if you can beat him? Luyun was being mean as usual and started teasing her again. Shut up. Kushina blushed, and she attacked angrily, punching the shadow clone. Quote exclamation mark quote. Luyun raised his arm to resist, and he was beaten back several steps by the furious Kushina. Tisk. You are so strong. Luyun shook his arm. In terms of physical fitness alone, Kushina is much stronger than Luyun. 3 bowls of white rice were not eaten for nothing, they were more than what he ate. Seeing Kushina rushing at him at high speed, the shadow clone quickly took a fighting stance. The two fought for more than 20 rounds, and the shadow clone soon exploded into smoke due to the continuous accumulation of small damage. It was not worth Kushina's happiness to defeat a shadow clone. The next moment, she threw a shuriken and hit Luyun's body who was watching the show on the river. I think you are really itching for skin. Luyun dodged the shuriken with a flash, and looked at Kushina with a serious look. Stop talking nonsense, come up and fight with me. Kushina raised the corner of her mouth, hooked her finger and spoke arrogantly. Luyun was stunned for a moment, and then pretended to be outdone. Since you want to dance, then do as you wish. After pretending to be pretty, he jumped directly from the river to Kushina. The next moment, Kushina swooped down and kicked him hard. Luyun raised his arm to block it, and then grabbed her ankle with his backhand. Kushina's body was extremely flexible, and she kicked out another foot in midair. But before the other kick landed, Luyun instantly exerted force to disrupt her rhythm, grabbed her ankle, and threw her out hard. The thrown Kushina spun several times in the air and landed steadily. As soon as she landed, she launched and attacked Luyun again. Unexpectedly capable. Luyun couldn't help but praise her, and then turned his head to avoid the punch. Luyun and her fought for several rounds and kicked out a kick. Kushina blocked it with her arm, but was only knocked back 2 small steps. What's going on? This feeling of power, are you looking down on me? Kushina couldn't help but question, she felt that Luyun was deliberately letting her win. This is my real power, but I didn't attach the chakra to my feet, so the power is lacking a lot. Luyun told the truth and explained the specific reasons. Precise control of chakra is a training course above genin, which is the so-called tree climbing. And treading water, if you complete these 2 exercises, your strength will naturally be improved rapidly. Quote. I see. I was wondering why your physical skills are so strong even though your body is so weak. It turns out that it's all because of the precise control of chakra. As soon as Kushina said this, Luyun's face darkened immediately. Who are you talking about being weak? I'll talk about whoever is weak. Kushina stuck out her tongue and said provocatively. You're looking for a fight. Even if you don't actively attach chakra, I can still deal with you. Quote. Luyun said as he attacked her. The speed of his body surprised Kushina. She did not dare to be careless for a moment and rushed to meet the enemy. With his excellent visual insight and sharp physical reaction, Luyun was always able to suppress Kushina steadily. It was difficult for Kushina to hit him, but she was hit several times and kicked several times on the buttocks. She was so angry that she gritted her teeth. The two fought for dozens of rounds. It must be said that Kushina is very resistant to beatings, and has unusually strong physical strength. She didn't feel tired after fighting for half a day, and it seemed that she could get braver and braver. Luyun's physical strength was a little insufficient, and in order to prevent being defeated, he no longer thought about holding back, and gradually began to hit harder. The Uzumaki clan has a perverted physique, and their recovery ability is many times stronger than that of ordinary people. Kushina is not so easy to be beaten, and Luyun didn't dare to hit her head, chest and abdomen, but only focused on her hands, feet, limbs and buttocks. Ah! I won't fight anymore. You pervert. Quote. After being slapped hard on the buttocks, Kushina could not help but scream, and the pain was so severe that tears were about to fall. At this moment, she was seen holding her buttocks tightly with both hands, and her big tearful eyes were full of rage. Hee hee. I didn't want to fight with you in the first place, but you were itching for it and took the initiative to get beaten. Luyun laughed and panted slightly. You. Kushina's face turned red with anger, and the next moment she turned around and ran away. She was really angry and didn't want to play with this stinky hooligan. Hey hey hey. Where are you going? You still need to practice throwing skills. Luyun hurriedly said from behind. No more practice. Kushina shouted without turning her head. Hee hee. Luyun looked at her back and shook his head and laughed, and had no intention of chasing her. Anyway, it was getting late now, and he would go home to cook after practicing for a while. The next day, they went to school. Kushina, whose butt was slightly swollen from being spanked, got into a tantrum, and Luyun coaxed her for a long time but failed to calm her down. It was not until she saw a bald figure entering the classroom that Kushina could not help laughing and reluctantly forgave Luyun's mistake. Sato had been shaved bald by a kunai before, and he had no other way to fix his hairstyle except to shave his head completely bald. Kushina pointed at his big bald head and laughed at him, making Sato cry several times. After this incident, the elementary school students in the class dared not provoke Luyun, the little, anymore. They might not be afraid of being beaten, let alone being scolded. But if their hair was cut like Sato, it might be more painful than killing them. After all, no one wants to be laughed at by others. The most feared thing for elementary school students is facing the pointing and criticizing of other classmates. It seems that these little also have weaknesses. Looking at the group of honest and obedient elementary school students, Luyun couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. Of course, it was impossible to make Sato behave himself. At this moment, he had no weaknesses. Others didn't dare to provoke him, but Sato, he dared. Unless his hair volume increases again, there is no way to expect him to stop. During the ideological education class, Luyun half closed his eyes, placed his hands on his legs, and concentrated his mind on his heart, refining chakra without paying attention to others. He was not in the mood to listen to the bullshit spirit of sacrifice, he just wanted to get chakra now. This idiot. Kushina was left aside by him, and she didn't even take the small paper ball back. A month passed in a blink of an eye. During this period, Luyun still practiced hard as usual, and almost did not fall behind in every subject, including ninjutsu, tai, genjutsu, and hidden weapons. As soon as night fell on this day, Wu Shanming took the initiative to visit Luyun. The first issue of Dragon Ball comics first appeared in the Naruto world, and was well received in various comic book stores in Konoha village, with explosive sales. Little Luyun, this is the dividend of the early profits of the comics, a total of 100,000 taels. Imagine according to the value of R. Wu Shanming pushed a large stack of banknotes and a profit bill in front of Luyun. Asuka, who was sitting next to Luyun, couldn't help swallowing her saliva when she saw so much money. She still hasn't reacted to what happened. Luyun scraped the banknotes with his hands, and the expression on his face couldn't tell whether he was happy or angry. In the eyes of his mother Asuka, her son at this moment is just like a little adult. Don't complain about the small amount, because the comics are currently only sold in Konoha village and surrounding villages. The publishing house has been speeding up printing day and night. By then, the comics will be sold all over the country and even other countries. The dividends will naturally be countless times more than this money. Wu Shanming smiled and continued to speak. The explosion of Dragon Ball did not surprise him, because the story itself is very interesting. As long as Luyun continues to create an update, it is only a matter of time before he makes a lot of money with this comic book. I see. Uncle Wu Shanming has made a trip. This is the sequel to the plot that I have sorted out recently, and there are also portraits of important characters. Luyun took out a draft and several portraits of characters from a long box. The portraits of Sun Wukong, Master Roshi, Krillin and others in Dragon Ball were all created by him, and the rest were handed over to Wu Shanming. It can be said that there are very few places where Wu Shanming really needs to use his brain, and he is very comfortable with this money. Great. With your draft, the next issue of the comics will be settled. Wu Shanming was overjoyed. This draft was like a reassurance, and he could continue to show his skills and write the sequel. After carefully reading the later plot, Wu Shanming was even more happy. The story of Dragon Ball is getting more and more exciting. Although Luyun's writing skills are not good, he has roughly written the outline and details. It is still no problem for him to draw comics according to this. In some unimportant places, Wu Shanming will make minor adjustments in the comics. As long as the general setting is not problematic, Luyun will allow him to add some of his own small ideas. For example, female characters. 2 nipples are faintly visible, and a little grass is vaguely planted. Young people in the ninja world like to watch this kind of thing. At this moment, Jiraiya has not yet written Intimate Paradise. After seeing Wu Shanming off, Luyun handed the 50,000 taels of banknotes to his mother Asuka. For me, Asuka stood there in a daze holding the banknotes. This money was equivalent to her salary for several months. How did her son get so much money? Well, mom can quit her job now. She doesn't have to work so hard anymore. I can support you, Luyun said with a smile. Ah, son, how did you get so much money? Asuka's face was full of shock. Luyun told her everything. Oh my god. You can actually write novels. And you took the initiative to find Wu Shanming to discuss cooperation and create comics together. Asuka couldn't understand her son more and more. Her son is simply a child prodigy. Why did he become like this? It seems that his brain has become different since he took off the headband. Could it be that he used to cover his head and affected his wisdom? Single quote. Asuka couldn't figure out the reason, so she started to think about it again. She happily accepted the money, and took a newly released Dragon Ball comic book from Luyun, and then happily read the comic book. Originally, Luyun didn't want to give her the comic book, because it contained the little color added by Wu Shanming, but if he didn't give it to her, this woman would definitely go to the bookstore to find Wu Shanming to buy it. He had no choice but to give a reminder first, put the pot on Wu Shanming's head, and showed Asuka the original story, which cleared him of the suspicion of being a dead pervert and a lecher. Son, I tell you, you can cooperate with Wu Shanming, but you must not be led astray by him. That guy's head is full of yellow water, and a good story has been drawn into a small yellow comic. Asuka angrily admonished with the comic book. Did you hear that? Seeing that her son was silent, Asuka knocked on his head with the comic book. Ah, I know. Luyun held his head and agreed quickly. You should read less comic books like this in the future. It's not good for the physical and mental health of teenagers. Yeah, I'll listen to mom. Luyun showed a well-behaved look, and Asuka smiled with relief. Son, it's enough to keep 10,000 or 20,000 as pocket money. Mom will keep the rest for you first and return it to you when you grow up. Asuka made the suggestion with a smile, mainly because she was afraid that he would spend money recklessly. I will use this money to buy ninja tools, protective gear, and training tools. I won't spend it recklessly. In fact, 50,000 taels is not much, and the expenses of ninjas are very high. Is that so? Okay then. Hearing that her son had his own plans and would not spend money recklessly, Asuka did not force him. The next day after he had the money, Luyun went to the ninja tool store and bought a lot of training items, such as ninja swords, kunai, shuriken, sandbags, wooden men and wooden stakes. He spent money like water, but he didn't feel bad about it, because money didn't mean much to him anymore, and power was what he pursued. He took out an expensive chakra test paper from his pocket and injected his chakra into the paper. He wanted to see his chakra attributes to determine the direction of his next ninjutsu training. The test paper was wrinkled and then burned to ashes in an instant. As Luyun injected chakra into the test paper first became wrinkled and then burned to ashes in an instant. Lightning and fire dual attributes. Not bad. Luyun smiled with satisfaction. Almost everyone in the Uchiha clan has fire attribute, and there are also dual attributes, and most of them are lightning and fire dual attributes, with almost no exceptions. Luyun has dual attributes, and his initial qualifications are good. Next, he will major in these two attributes of ninjutsu. As for fire escape, the Great Fireball technique and the Phoenix Fire technique are one medium-range ninjutsu and one long-range group attack ninjutsu, and the two fire escapes are barely enough for now. What he lacks at the moment is a close combat ninjutsu that is powerful enough, so lightning style, Chidori, becomes his first choice. As for defensive techniques, as the saying goes, offense is the best defense, so he doesn't need it for the time being. It's not that easy to figure out, lightning style, Chidori, out of thin air, after all, it is an A-level ninjutsu. If he knew the complete seal sequence of the entire ninjutsu, he should be able to learn it quickly with the help of the shadow clone, but the creator of Chidori, Hitaki Kakashi, has not been born yet. If you want to figure it out by yourself with just a conceptual ninjutsu, it will inevitably take a lot of energy and time. I can only ask the shadow clone to go to school for the time being, and I will go back to school when the main body creates Chidori. Thinking of this, Luyun immediately summoned the shadow clone and began to study ninjutsu. Although he didn't know how the initial stage of Chidori was done, Luyun thought that the electric current should appear in the palm of his hand first. One main body plus 3 shadow clones tried to hold back for a long time, but apart from the main body not being able to hold back and letting out a loud fart, not even a single electric current could be held back. It seems that the only way to guide the chakra into electricity is through hand seals. Luyun originally thought whether he could give up hand seals at the very beginning and use his own strong mental will to guide the chakra to complete the transformation. Now it seems that he really overestimated himself. Using hand seals to guide chakra transformation is a method that has been taught in ninja schools, just like Luyun knows how to make hand seals to transform chakra into fire escape and spit it out from his mouth. His basic knowledge of the technique is good, so at this moment he also knows what hand seals to make to transform chakra into electricity. He used 6 seals just to generate the current from his palms. Remember this feeling first, and then try to simplify it gradually later. Chidori seems to have only 3 seals, but even if Luyun knew these 3 seals at this moment, it would be useless. Because the 3 seals are simplified hand seals after people have fully mastered this technique. It is impossible to use Chidori with 3 seals before mastering the ninjutsu. Days passed by, and after Luyun completed the physical exercise task every day, most of the remaining time was spent on thunder release and Chidori. Half a month later, because his hands were wrapped in electricity for a long time, his palms were damaged to a certain extent. Luyun was afraid of leaving any hidden dangers or hidden injuries, so he was forced to suspend the research and development of Chidori. In addition, the end of the term in the ninja school is approaching, and a long summer vacation is about to come. 2 days later, Luyun went to the ninja school to take the final exam. There will be a series of assessments today. When he returns to school after today, he will be a glorious 6th-year college student. On this day, the 3rd Hokage put down his busy work and personally sat in the ninja school to supervise the assessment of teachers at all levels. Because he is the principal of the ninja school, he can be absent on weekdays, but he has to show up for the final exams and the opening ceremony of freshmen. The 3rd Hokage brought all 3 of his disciples here today. At this moment, they are sitting in the principal's office, surrounding a crystal ball, watching the graduation assessment of the 6th-year students. Students usually take one of the 3 ninjutsu techniques when they graduate. As long as their ninjutsu talent is not too bad, it is generally easy to graduate from the ninja school smoothly. Orochimaru, where are you going? Jiraiya, who was watching the crystal ball, asked Orochimaru, who suddenly stood up and left. A bit bored, just wandering around. Orochimaru waved his hand without looking back. Not long after Orochimaru left, Tsunade also stood up from her seat and walked out of the principal's office. Tsunade, you want to? None of your shit. Things. Tsunade cursed impatiently before Jiraiya finished speaking. Sarutobi Hiruzen and Jiraiya looked at each other, and the atmosphere seemed a little awkward. I'll go see what they want to do. Sarutobi Hiruzen glanced at his back and said nothing. Orochimaru strolled casually in the ninja school, but finally stopped at the window of the 5th grade class 1. The pair of snake-like eyes carefully looked at Luyun, who was working hard on the test paper. As if he noticed his gaze, Luyun suddenly looked up at the window, and the eyes of the two met instantly. Interesting Uchiha kid. Looking at the slightly surprised expression, Orochimaru showed a meaningful smile. What are you doing here? Quote. Tsunade suddenly walked to Orochimaru's side. Nothing, I came to see an interesting little guy. Orochimaru smiled hoarsely, and both of them kept their voices low, not wanting to disturb the students who were doing their homework in the room. Interesting little guy. Do you mean Kushina? Tsunade was a little surprised. She knew that 501 was Kushina's class. At this moment, she came here to see Kushina and her little deskmate. When she looked over, Kushina and Luyun seemed to have not noticed her arrival, and were doing their own homework. No. Orochimaru gave a negative answer. No. Then you are. Tsunade was surprised for a moment, and then seemed to think of something, and read out a name with some uncertainty. Uchiha. Luyun. Huh. You actually know him too. Now it was Orochimaru's turn to be surprised. Hey. What are you two doing here in secret? Quote. Just when the two wanted to have a deeper discussion, Jiraiya's arrival instantly made them frown and keep silent. His voice was a little loud, even disturbing some students in the classroom. Teacher Oda came out to check and made a shushing gesture. Idiot. Tsunade's face turned pale. She grabbed Jiraiya's collar and dragged him away. You idiot, don't you know that you can't affect the candidates? Quote. 30 minutes later, the final written exam was over, and all the candidates from 501 came to a corner of the playground. The final exam still includes the assessment of throwing skills, which is even more important than the 3 body techniques of ninja. Whether it is the 5th or 6th grade, the instructors at all levels will focus on the throwing of hidden weapons. People who can't throw kunai and shuriken well will be a burden on the battlefield in the future, and will only waste expensive strategic materials. People like this don't even deserve to have Konoha's forehead protector. If you are not good at the 3 body techniques and have no talent for ninjutsu, Konoha may still take a look at your advantages elsewhere, refer to Dai, Kai, and Li, and allow you to graduate and become a ninja. But if you can't even pass the throwing skills, then Konoha may not even look at you. The students were very excited. In this throwing test, each student had 10 opportunities to throw hidden weapons, and the distance of the target was increased from 20 meters to 30 meters. Since it was the last test of the final exam, all the candidates seemed a little nervous. After all, if the results were too bad, they might be expelled from the ninja school. The rules of the ninja school were very cruel, but the original book did not reveal it. The higher the students, the fewer there would be. In the class where the protagonist Uzumaki Naruto of the original book was, there was no poor student at all. Students who could reach the 6th grade generally had their own strengths, and most of them could graduate successfully. At that time, only Naruto became the exception because of the influence of the Nine-Tails chakra. Don't be nervous. Brother has taught you the throwing technique for so long. You can easily handle this test today. Luyun saw Kushina was silent and trembling slightly, and he couldn't help but feel a little funny. What are you talking about? How can I be nervous? I'm very excited now. It's finally my turn. I want to get a full score today. Kushina clenched her fists and was excited. Under Luyun's long-term and patient guidance, her throwing technique has been able to hit the target every time. Today is the time to let everyone look at her with new eyes. No. 18. Uzumaki Kushina. Soon, the examiner called Kushina's name. 5 kunai and 5 shurikens were thrown out from Kushina's hands one after another. As a series of hits sounded, the elementary school students present couldn't help but exclaimed in surprise. Oh my god. How did Stinky Tomato's throwing skills improve so fast? All 10 shots hit the bull's eye. Kushina hit all 10 shots, 9 of them hit the bull's eye, and 1 shuriken was slightly off, total score minus 98 points. The examiner announced the score loudly. His words caused an uproar. No one expected Kushina to get this score, even Minato looked incredulous. Because hidden weapon throwing is not Kushina's strong point at all. Why did this guy's throwing skills improve so much? Many people were puzzled by this. Ha ha ha. You were dumbfounded. Although she didn't get full marks, Kushina couldn't help laughing triumphantly when she heard the surprised comments of her classmates. Especially Sato and other elementary school students, seeing the pride on Kushina's face, their expressions instantly became extremely ugly, as if they had swallowed a rat shit. Good job, Kushina. A woman's voice suddenly came from the playground. Everyone looked over and saw the figures of the 3 adults. Tsunade, Orochimaru, and Jiraiya had been watching them. Ah, Sister Tsunade. Kushina was very surprised to meet Tsunade in school, but because she was in class, she couldn't go over to say hello, so she could only wave to her. Luyun knew that the 3 ninjas were watching him, and he felt a little stressed and nervous. He didn't know who they were targeting, but he always felt like he was being watched. No. 19. Uchiha Luyun. When his name was called, Luyun exhaled a little, and then picked up the hidden weapon in the barrel. Luyun threw out 5 kunai in succession, and then held 2 shurikens in his left hand and 3 shurikens in his right hand, and threw out 5 shurikens at the same time. 10 hidden weapons, all of which were aimed at a graceful movement. This move really surprised many elementary school students. Uchiha Luyun, all 10 hits, 4 hit the bull's eye. Overall score 94 points. A very good result, and some students at the scene also gave applause. You guy. Kushina crossed her hands on her chest and showed dissatisfaction. Luyun had obviously played the throwing technique well in private, but he had to hide his weakness in a serious occasion. In fact, it can't be said that he was completely hiding his weakness, but he performed a little better than ordinary people. Anyway, it was neither good nor bad, which made Kushina very uncomfortable. Hee. Oshimaru, who was originally watching the show, suddenly chuckled. What are you laughing at? Tsunade asked curiously, and Jiraiya looked over immediately. This Uchiha clan member's performance was actually very average, and his ability was actually not much different from that of other Uchiha children. It is normal for the Uchiha clan to be good at throwing things. This kid is hiding his incompetence. Hiding his incompetence. Impossible. He already got 94 points, is there any need to hide his incompetence? There is not much difference between 94 points and 100 points, why not take the full score? Besides, how can a child have so many thoughts? Jiraiya felt that Orochimaru was thinking too much. I saw it with my own eyes before, he defeated 7 Uchiha kids of the same age by himself. Orochimaru revealed this information directly. The 2 people's faces changed instantly after hearing this. Is it true? Jiraiya's face was full of surprise. Although the Uchiha clan has a bad reputation in Konoha, its strength is indeed top-notch. Even in the ninja school, the children of this family are much stronger than those of other families. The seemingly thin and mixed-haired Uchiha in front of him actually has the strength to fight 7 people alone, and the people he defeated are all people of the same clan. What is his real strength? If Orochimaru didn't lie, then this kid was probably hiding his abilities. Because the strongest Uchiha in the ninja school is the throwing of hidden weapons. If this kid has that kind of ability, he shouldn't have only scored 94 points. I see, that day was not an illusion. Tsunade murmured subconsciously. What are you talking about? Orochimaru asked with a frown. Nothing, I also think that guy is hiding his abilities. Kushina has been with him recently. The reason why she has made great progress in throwing skills should be due to his guidance. Tsunade told what she knew. Even Kushina, who is not good at throwing, can get 98 points. Would Uchiha Luyun, who often stays with her, be worse than her? Have you investigated him? Orochimaru asked again. Well, his father, Uchiha Mamoru, was a chunin who died heroically 2 years ago. His mother, Asuka, is an ordinary person. But speaking of it, his mother has some blood relationship with our Senju clan. Tsunade investigated his background thoroughly, and there were some things that even Luyun himself didn't know. Is there a small part of Senju blood? No wonder his hair color is different from ordinary people. The blood of the Uchiha clan couldn't completely dye his hair black. Orochimaru couldn't help but laugh and tease. A man from the Uchiha clan would actually find a Senju woman to start a family. This kind of thing is only possible after the Senju clan split up in secret. From this point of view, Tsunade can also understand why Luyun's family took the initiative to move away from the Uchiha clan, because being excluded is inevitable. Why are you investigating him for no reason? Jiraiya was very curious at this time. Why are these two people interested in the same Uchiha kid? None of your business. A grown man is always nosy. Tsunade glared at him fiercely. Hey, hey. Don't be so targeted. You are not nosy when Orochimaru asks you, but you are nosy when I ask you. Jiraiya put on an aggrieved look of, I am very hurt, but Tsunade obviously didn't buy it. I won't tell you. What's the matter? The next one is Minato Namikaze. As a popular genius in the class, Minato caused a lot of cheers as soon as he appeared. And he lived up to expectations, hitting the target with all 10 hidden weapons, and got a super full score. Other people shot 10 hidden weapons in 10 times, but he shot all 10 hidden weapons in 4 times, and all of them hit the bullseye accurately. His throwing movements were fast and elegant, clean and neat, and extremely handsome. This move fascinated many girls in the same class, and even many boys couldn't help but applaud, including Luyun at the moment. That boy is quite outstanding. Who of you two knows his name? Jiraiya looked at Minato and instantly became interested. Namikaze Minato, a rare little genius, a figure who has always been the top of the grade, seems to have a good relationship with people. Orochimaru gave an evaluation. Namikaze Minato. Jiraiya remembered this name. Minato is really handsome since he was a child. Single quote. Luyun couldn't help but sigh that Namikaze Minato's ability and charm are indeed outstanding. If he didn't secretly play the involution, he might really be surpassed by the other party. What's so great? Luyun can also perform collision-style kunai multi-combo. Kushina muttered softly, with dissatisfaction written all over her face. She scored 98 points, but few people applauded and cheered for her. Luyun scored 94 points, but few people applauded and cheered for him. When it was Minato's turn, a large group of people cheered for him before he even pitched. She didn't deny that Minato was very popular, but she always believed that Luyun was better than him. It's just that this, old six, was too wretched, and he refused to do his best in front of outsiders. Except for talking nonsense. Look at Minato, and then look at you now. You used to be very popular, why are you becoming less and less popular? Kushina glared at Luyun with a look of disappointment. Luyun didn't expect that he would be shot even when he was lying down. The next moment, he held his head with both hands and gave the reason. We are now the famous, black and red twins in the school. They all say that I am your younger brother. Sato's grandson also told others that I was born by you. No one wants to play with me. Can I be blamed for my lack of popularity? Hearing Luyun say this, Kushina's face instantly flushed. She felt really embarrassed. The key is that this guy is saying this now. Doesn't he feel embarrassed? This guy is too thick-skinned. Kushina looked up and saw Luyun's indifferent attitude. She immediately couldn't help getting angry. Are you just letting him talk nonsense? Don't you dare to beat him up. I beat him up. Don't you know whether it's useful? Luyun looked helpless. Kushina was speechless for a while. Let's see if we can find a chance to kill him later. Luyun said as he made a motion of raising his hand and cutting with a knife. Seeing Luyun's serious attitude, Kushina was instantly frightened. She quickly grabbed Luyun's arm to tell him not to be impulsive. No, those who insult me will be punished no matter how long it takes. Luyun said in a deep voice with a straight face. Seeing that Luyun even shouted the slogan of, punish no matter how long it takes, he must have been really angry, and Kushina was frightened for a moment and hurriedly tried to comfort him. Not that bad, that dog thing is hateful, but it is not a crime punishable by death. Calm down, don't do stupid things, and don't argue with him. Kushina hugged Luyun's arm and forced a smile. Her little heart was thumping with fear. She was really afraid that Luyun would go and assassinate Sato during the summer vacation. If he really did that, that would be a big deal. Don't argue with him. It's too late. Luyun snorted coldly, staring at Sato in the crowd. I'm very angry now. Sato suddenly felt an inexplicable chill coming over him, and couldn't help shivering. Ah. You, calm down. Kushina hurriedly held his cheeks with both hands, preventing Luyun from looking at Sato, lest he really lose control. How about, I'll help you beat him up. Just to vent your anger. You can't really do something stupid. Are you concerned about me? Feeling the warmth in Kushina's palm, Luyun suddenly changed the subject, his eyes, really. Since I was ambiguous. When I heard this, Shinsina's face turned from white to red instantly. A punch flew out. At this moment, her face was a little ugly. When the words fell, Shinsai did not feel ambiguous. Because someone couldn't help laughing when looking at the ruddy face so close to him. Kushina found out that she was deceived again, and was so angry that she beat Luyun and made him run away regardless of the occasion. After the last outdoor class, all the students returned to the classroom. Teacher Oda had already graded the test papers when they were in the outdoor class, and each student also received the final summary evaluation. Luyun and Kushina are both top students, while Minato is a rare excellent student. After assigning summer homework, Oda also said goodbye to all the students. After he left, some of the students couldn't wait to run out of the school, while others stayed in the classroom and said goodbye to their classmates. Luyun, Kushina, see you next semester. Minato came over and said hello before he was about to go home with his school bag. Yeah, see you next semester. Luyun smiled and stretched out his palm to him. Minato smiled slightly and stretched out his palm to shake his. See you next semester, Minato-kun. Kushina bowed slightly, but this time she didn't give him a cold shoulder. After all, she was a polite girl. After Minato left, Kushina stopped pretending to be a lady. She kicked Luyun's calf directly, and he grimaced in pain instantly. Hiss, dirt. I have already admitted my mistake, and I was beaten by you just now. Aren't you still upset? How do you plan to spend the holiday? Kushina ignored his resentment and asked with her hands on her hips. What else can I plan? Of course, I will continue to practice. Luyun answered subconsciously while rubbing his calf. In a few days, I will teach you the sealing technique. Ah, you should have taught me long ago. Then I won't teach you. Then I won't teach you, tree climbing, and shadow clones. Do you dare? Kushina clenched her fists until they made a crackling sound. Outside the school gate, the two waved goodbye to each other. For them, there was plenty of time to get together during the holidays, so naturally there was no special feeling. Just as Luyun was walking on the way home, a figure suddenly appeared and blocked his way. Oh, chicken, idiot. The two of them were very close. Luyun-kun, are you going home now? It's still early, do you want to find a place to chat? Luyun was very surprised that Orochimaru would take the initiative to invite him, but in the end he nodded and followed Orochimaru to a remote place with beautiful scenery. Luyun-kun, can you tell me why you want to hide your strength? Orochimaru got straight to the point and took the initiative to ask the doubts in his heart. What do you mean by hiding your strength? Luyun looked at him with a bewildered face, as if he didn't understand the meaning of this sentence. Orochimaru stared at his eyes quietly, and his snake-like pupils made Luyun feel creepy. What are you afraid of? What are you worried about? Orochimaru asked again. A young man with a very clean family background, who has strength far beyond his peers, has always been low-key and a little too low-key. This uncharacteristic behavior successfully aroused Orochimaru's curiosity. He wanted to know why Luyun was so alert. Luyun wanted to say that he was afraid of you. But then he thought about it. Orochimaru was quite famous in Konoha during this period, so it seemed unnecessary to guard against him at the moment. Moreover, he had exposed his strength before and was seen by the other party. It seemed a bit redundant to pretend to be stupid. He really couldn't find any suitable reason to fool him. Who would have thought that he would meet Orochimaru in such a remote place? Okay. Since Luyun-kun doesn't want to say it, I don't want to force it. Seeing that Luyun didn't answer for a long time, Orochimaru took the initiative to give him a way out. Have you been practicing lightning ninjutsu recently? As soon as these words came out, Luyun's pupils shrank unconsciously. When he was practicing Chidori, he would usually take the initiative to open the Sharingan in order to better control chakra. Could it be that all his secrets have been discovered by Orochimaru? No, that's not right. Luyun subconsciously looked at his right hand, which had a not-so-conspicuous electric shock scar on it. Did you infer it from the scars on my hand? He didn't expect Orochimaru to be so careful. Yes. Finally, Luyun nodded after careful consideration, which was considered an active admission. Hehe. Can you tell me what lightning ninjutsu you are learning? Ninjutsu that requires the palm of the hand to touch lightning is not uncommon in the ninja world, but it is definitely rare, and Orochimaru's curiosity was successfully aroused again. I've been trying to develop a close combat lightning ninjutsu recently, but the progress is not going smoothly. Luyun scratched his head and smiled. You actually want to develop a new ninjutsu? Orochimaru's eyes condensed, and there was surprise in his snake pupils. I'm just killing time when I'm bored. Luyun replied with a wry smile. Hehe. Luyun-kun's mind is really unpredictable. Orochimaru suddenly licked the corner of his mouth. This was his subconscious action when he was extremely excited. It is extremely difficult for ordinary ninjas to create ninjutsu, because it requires extremely rich knowledge and experience in ninjutsu. How dare you, a primary school student, say that you want to develop ninjutsu? And what he developed is the extremely difficult lightning ninjutsu. Luyun not only wants to do lightning ninjutsu, but also wants to make the lightning ninjutsu that was originally only suitable for medium and long-range use in close combat. The lightning ninjutsu suitable for close combat, in the ninja world, only the lightning armor of the land of lightning can do it. If someone else heard Luyun's brazen words, they might treat them as children's jokes and look down on them. But Luyun is facing Orochimaru at the moment. As long as he is interested in you, no matter how outrageous your words are, his first reaction will not be to question you. Can Luyun tell me your thoughts on the new lightning escape technique? Maybe I can help you. Orochimaru said sincerely. Before being bloodily beaten by Uchiha Itachi, Orochimaru's greatest interest was to study various ninjutsu, and his greatest wish was to learn all the techniques in the world. Luyun's words hit his itchy spot. Of course. With the guidance of Lord Orochimaru, I think the difficulties of the new technique will be solved soon. A look of surprise appeared on Luyun's face. If the current Orochimaru is willing to guide him, it might be a good thing. Originally, Luyun did intend to guard against Orochimaru, because there were countless children who were used as pawns by Orochimaru in the original work, and even more were abandoned in the end. To the point of being difficult to calculate. Not everyone can make Orochimaru willing to give without asking for anything in return like the second pillar. Even for Uchiha Sasuke, Orochimaru wanted to use him as a vessel for reincarnation in the early stage, so he would do his best to cultivate him. So Luyun always thought it was necessary to be vigilant against Orochimaru. According to his understanding of Orochimaru in the original work, this guy is not only extremely curious, but also has a special hobby. That is, he likes to abduct and cultivate genius children, especially those who can interest him. The current Luyun has aroused his strong interest. Ninjutsu research plus young genius, the two buffs have been fully stacked, and it is too late for him to avoid it. Instead of doing this, it is better to accept the non-venomous snake in front of him. During this period, Orochimaru was very healthy physically and mentally. It was not until he witnessed the death of his disciple Nawaki and Kato Dan that his mind began to gradually twist and pervert. At present, Orochimaru seemed to have no reason to harm him, so Luyun temporarily let down his psychological guard. I want to create a lightning ninjutsu that can be attached to the palm, so as to achieve the effect of close-range thrust with extreme speed. As Luyun said this, he formed seals with both hands, and soon a dazzling electric current appeared in his palms. As he increased the release of chakra, the current gradually increased and increased. Orochimaru looked at this scene with a look of horror on his face. The current situation was beyond his imagination. He didn't expect that a primary school student could have such a strong chakra control ability. In theory, ninja schools do teach this kind of theory and knowledge, but the control method, climbing trees and stepping on water, is not easily taught. Because the chakra in children's bodies is very little, and they don't have the kind of mental will to control chakra. It is considered mentally strong to be able to extract enough chakra. How did Luyun do this? Gathering the current in the palm of his hand, it's a good thing that he can think of and do it. As the current became more and more dazzling, Orochimaru originally thought he would witness a miracle, but he didn't expect Luyun to suddenly stop the output of chakra. Holding up his scarred palm, Luyun asked sincerely, Master Orochimaru, how can I control the power of lightning that can penetrate the enemy's body without getting my palm injured? The current that Luyun used at this moment was far from being able to penetrate objects. It was not because his chakra was insufficient, but because his palm would be injured by the current. This made Luyun puzzled. Kakashi in the original work did not seem to have this problem. This was the difficulty Luyun was facing at the moment. Only by overcoming this difficulty could Chidori be developed. Thunder itself is a very difficult force to control. If you want to make it attached to the palm of your hand without hurting yourself, and also have the penetrating power of thunder, this is theoretically difficult to do. Orochimaru could not think of how to solve the difficulty raised by Luyun for a while. Luyun was not surprised by this. Chidori was an A-level ninjutsu after all, and its difficulty was comparable to that of Rasengan. The original book only mentioned it briefly, and the key problem still depended on their own exploration. Now he handed this difficult problem to Orochimaru, hoping that this ninjutsu master could help him find the way out. Write down the order of the seals just now, I will go back and study it, and you can find me at my house tomorrow morning. Luyun's seals were very fast just now, and there were many seals, so he didn't look at them carefully, so he asked Luyun to write them down. Luyun nodded, took out a pen and paper from his school bag, and Orochimaru also reported his home address at this time. Taking the paper, Orochimaru looked at the seals on it thoughtfully. He chatted with Luyun again for a few words and then said goodbye and left. The new ninjutsu aroused his interest. He felt that there was a possibility of success, so he couldn't wait to understand and try it at this moment. Luyun returned home, put down his school bag, and after saying a few words to Asuka, who had quit her job to grow flowers at home, he strode out of the house again. He trotted all the way from home to Konoha Hospital, and then paid the registration fee and found a medical ninja. My palm was injured by electric shock. Please use medical ninjutsu to treat me. Luyun took the initiative to tell about his injuries. Let me see. The female medical ninja carefully looked at the palm and confirmed that it was indeed an electric shock injury. She immediately used medical ninjutsu to start treatment. Little brother, how did you get injured like this? And judging from the appearance of your palm, it shouldn't have been caused on the first day, right? The female medical ninja frowned and asked while treating. Yeah, sister guessed well, but the specific reason is inconvenient to disclose. Luyun replied with a smile. The female ninja was a little surprised by Luyun's answer. She just nodded lightly and didn't ask any more questions. 10 minutes later, Luyun felt that the pain in his palm had obviously subsided a lot. Sister, I just saw that the hospital lobby is recruiting medical ninjas. Do you have to be a genin to learn medical ninjutsu? Luyun raised this question out of curiosity about medical ninjutsu. Why? Are you interested in medical ninjutsu? Yeah, I am interested. I think medical ninjutsu is the angel in the ninja world. Luyun flattered the female ninja. Haha. If you don't pursue powerful ninjutsu, how can you think of learning medical ninjutsu? If you want to be a medical ninjutsu, you must have a forehead protector. If you are not even a ninja, you may not have chakra, so how can you learn medical ninjutsu? The female ninja replied with a smile. Is that so? Luyun whispered. He really wanted to learn medical ninjutsu. After all, more skills are better than less. Medical ninjutsu is still very useful at critical moments. Moreover, his mental strength is very strong, and with the help of the shadow clone, he can learn anything very quickly, and he doesn't have to worry about lack of energy at all. Especially now that there is a summer vacation, it is just right to prepare a few more training projects. Unfortunately, medical ninjutsu requires a ninja identity to sign up. If you want to learn, you can only wait until you get the Konoha forehead protector. Healed. Soon, the female ninja healed Luyun's injury. Your injury is not serious, but it is best to reduce hand activities and don't hurt your palm again. The little sister kindly reminded. Luyun has a lot of calluses on his hands, and they are also very rough. At first glance, he is not a simple little boy. Okay, thank you, little sister, I will pay attention. Luyun bowed slightly and stood up to say goodbye. It is impossible for him to give up the development of Chidori. The next morning, Luyun completed his daily morning exercise task as usual. He went home to have breakfast and then hurried to Orochimaru's mansion. Orochimaru is a warrior. Jung was an orphan, and he was the only one living at home. The mansion he lived in was not small, and the location was also very remote. Whether it was intentional or unintentional, the area where his family lived was just very close to the cemetery of Konoha. Lord Orochimaru. When he saw Orochimaru, Luyun bowed and saluted. No need to be polite, come in. Orochimaru waved his hand, and the two came to the garden together. Luyun saw a lot of strange snakes in the garden, all colorful, which made people feel a little scalp numb. I saw Orochimaru waved his hand, and the snakes in the garden immediately scattered to the corners and disappeared. I have learned about the new technique yesterday. I have to say that Luyun-kun is really a ninjutsu genius. At such a young age, you have already preliminarily understood the changes in the form and nature of chakra. Orochimaru couldn't help but exclaimed, but Luyun didn't feel much when he heard this. After all, he was just copying homework. In the original work, Kakashi explained the concept of chakra nature change and form change more than once. With the help of various ninjutsu knowledge in the school, it was not difficult for Luyun to understand. He invested a lot of time and energy in the development of Chidori, and a large part of this energy was put on the basis of studying the nature change and form change of chakra. These 2 points are the basic prerequisites for creating Chidori. Although Luyun's hand-gathering electric current performance yesterday seemed simple, in the eyes of ninjutsu experts like Orochimaru, it takes extremely high ninjutsu attainments to perform this method. Only Orochimaru, who has a deep understanding of this new technique, knows how extraordinary this elementary school student is. Luyun's understanding of chakra and ninjutsu far exceeds that of his peers. The two sides are not at the same level at all. Outstanding is not enough to describe his specialness. He is like an alien hidden in the crowd, even if he has been in the ordinary crowd for many years, he cannot be seen through. This is very scary to think about it, even Orochimaru has some inexplicable fear of it. If he hadn't just seen Luyun defeat the 7 Uchiha disciples, he probably wouldn't have known that there was such an outlier hidden in the ninja school. I already know the difficulties you mentioned yesterday. In fact, your new technique idea is fine, and there are basically no major problems with ninjutsu and seals. The reason why you hurt yourself is because you are too conservative. Of course, it may also be because you don't have enough chakra, which makes the new technique unable to take shape. Hearing Orochimaru say this, Luyun hurriedly asked for the specific reason. The two of them were very busy. Try the new technique again now, and then listen to my instructions. Orochimaru signaled Luyun to try Chidori again. Okay. Luyun quickly formed seals with both hands, and soon arcs of electricity appeared in the palms of his hands. Increasing the output of chakra is the key to this technique. Don't be stingy with chakra at this time. Not letting the arcs fully stretch out will cause injuries to your palms. Orochimaru suddenly reminded loudly. Hearing him say this, Luyun instantly realized his mistake. So that's it. He didn't realize this before, and he always held back when exerting force. It turned out that this was the reason why he kept failing. It was a very simple reason, but because no one pointed it out, it troubled Luyun for a long time. After realizing it, Luyun dared not hesitate any longer and gathered all the chakra in his body in the form of an explosion to his palm. Gradually, arcs of electricity began to emit harsh thunderous sounds, and the power of the technique was fully demonstrated for the first time. This level of thunder power. Orochimaru's pupils shrank unconsciously, and the snakes hiding in the dark around him were frightened by the thunderous sounds and fled in all directions. Ha ha ha, it finally looks like something. Luyun raised the thunder ball in his hand and laughed out loud. Although the chakra in his body was being consumed at a speed visible to the naked eye, he couldn't help but be happy. The previous arcs didn't make any noise at all, And now this is the real, Chidori. What a dazzling light. Orochimaru subconsciously narrowed his eyes, defining this strong light as a defect in his mind, because it would cause the caster to have a partial visual blind spot, which could easily be used and targeted by the enemy. And this harsh thunderous sound is also a defect of ninjutsu. You just started your ninjutsu, and people know you're going to use a big move. Even fools know to guard against you, and at the very least they will avoid you first. Go. Let's see how powerful it is. Orochimaru pointed to a large strange stone placed in the garden. Yeah. Luyun narrowed his eyes, took a few steps, and rushed to the front of the strange stone at a very fast speed. The dazzling hand knife hit forward with great force, and the terrifying lightning poured out in an instant, and the huge strange stone exploded. Very good power. Orochimaru couldn't help but clapped his hands and praised. Luyun looked at his palm holding the lightning, which was only slightly injured. Such damage was unavoidable, but completely acceptable. However, the large amount of chakra loss made him gasp repeatedly, and he could only release such an attack 3 times at most. Chidori is very powerful, but its flaws are also very obvious. Many hand seals plus strong light plus strong noise plus huge consumption, these are all the flaws of Chidori. Although the new technique has great flaws, Orochimaru still thinks it is a successful ninjutsu. Ryayun, you created this ninjutsu, have you thought of a name? Orochimaru licked his lips with a smile. After a moment of silence, Ryayun smiled and answered, let's call it Chidori. The harsh thunder is like thousands of birds singing at the same time, you really know how to name it. Orochimaru praised. Sorry, Kakashi. Ryayun mourned for 3 seconds in his heart. The chakra theory knowledge involved in this new technique is very complicated. Based on the difficulty of learning this technique, Orochimaru defines it as an A-level lightning ninjutsu. Can you tell me why you want to create this ninjutsu? Who taught you the knowledge of ninjutsu? Orochimaru doesn't think that the ninjutsu knowledge taught in school can support him to create A-level advanced ninjutsu. He thinks there must be someone behind Luyun. To be honest, my father accidentally obtained a ninjutsu notebook from the corpse of an enemy ninja during a mission. Since he didn't have the thunder attribute and the ninjutsu was not complete, this notebook has been stored in the family warehouse. My mother found this notebook when she was sorting the warehouse. I saw that the ninjutsu was powerful, and I happened to have the thunder attribute, so I thought of perfecting this thunder escape ninjutsu. Luyun said the excuse he thought of last night. The reason was not true, but it was barely an explanation. Orochimaru nodded, and didn't intend to be serious. Luyun Jun can figure out a complete advanced ninjutsu with a fragment. Such a talent for ninjutsu really shouldn't be buried. I wonder if Luyun-kun wants to learn more ninjutsu. If you want, I can teach you. Hearing this, Luyun immediately widened his eyes in disbelief. He never thought that Orochimaru would want to take him as a disciple. You know, he is now the master of Konoha's Prince Shungshu. What? Luyun-kun doesn't want to. Seeing him standing there in a daze, Orochimaru couldn't help but feel a little funny. No. I do. Luyun spoke immediately after he reacted. With Orochimaru, the future, 3 ninjas, guiding him, he will definitely take fewer detours in the process of cultivation and growth. At present, the benefits far outweigh the risks. Luyun only thought about it for a moment and figured out the pros and cons. This opportunity is rare and he can't miss it. Teacher, please accept my disciple's greetings. Bending forward, Luyun directly performed a greeting ceremony. Haha, I didn't say I wanted to take you as a disciple. Orochimaru laughed and said something that embarrassed Luyun. Orochimaru has been idle recently, so he thought that while guiding Rope Tree to practice, he could also give Luyun some pointers. After all, this is a very valuable talent. Although Orochimaru has no plans to accept another apprentice for the time being, he is also willing to help him become a talent. The school is on summer vacation. If Luyun thinks the vacation is too boring and wants to learn ninjutsu, you can come to me. If you have any questions about ninjutsu and other practices, you can also come to ask me at any time. Orochimaru left his contact information and took the initiative to give him a communication white snake, which can be used to transmit information when necessary to prevent Luyun from finding people. The two sat in the garden and chatted for a while. Orochimaru taught him how to simplify the hand seals of the thunder-release Chidori and explained to him the various defects of the Chidori. Luyun was very surprised when he heard it. He was very serious. In fact, he himself knew the flaws of Chidori. The extreme speed of the Chidori and the visual blind spot caused by the strong light of lightning can be solved by opening the 3 magatama Sharingan. The most troublesome thing that Orochimaru thought was that Luyun already had the conditions to crack. He didn't dare to say that he had the 3 magatama Sharingan for the time being. Here is a ninjutsu scroll about the basic knowledge of lightning escape. It contains the practice experience of predecessors. You can take it home and read it. It will help you to fully master Chidori. Orochimaru threw a scroll to Luyun. He felt that Luyun's lightning attribute chakra nature change and form change were not done well enough, which would make it more difficult to form ninjutsu and consume more. The knowledge in the scroll can help Luyun better control Chidori. Thank you, teacher Orochimaru. Quote. Luyun took the scroll and immediately bowed 90 degrees. His smiling face under the messy hair looked a little sinister. Orochimaru's mouth twitched slightly. Although he felt that this name was a little inappropriate, he felt that it seemed to be more pleasant than, "Oh chicken shamao." After leaving Orochimaru's residence, Luyun returned home and sat on the corridor to read the ninja scroll. After Asuka finished watering the flowers and plants in the yard, she took the initiative to move closer to him. My son used to like reading comics, but now he always likes to read scrolls, and he reads about learning knowledge such as ninjas and ninjutsu. He doesn't sleep in anymore, and he practices all day long. In the past, he would occasionally go out to play with friends, but now it seems that he has stopped socializing. Son, do you want to go out and play with your classmates? Give yourself a holiday occasionally. Wouldn't it be a bit boring to practice every day? Asuka asked tentatively. What vacation? Isn't the school already on summer vacation? Luyun answered casually while looking at the scroll without raising her head. Mom means that you should not work too hard. You can be motivated, but you should also take a break occasionally. Luyun raised his eyebrows when he heard this, tilted his head and looked at Asuka with a strange expression. Didn't you always advise me to be less lazy and study more before? Why do you completely change your mind now? I even doubt whether you are my real mother. Luyun asked Tiangong directly, and the last, confusing, words made Asuka fall into self-doubt. Yes. Didn't I always expect him to work harder and study well before? My son is obedient now, why am I? It turns out that not only her son has changed, but she herself has changed too. Before, she doubted whether the other party was her own son, and now he doubts whether she is her own mother. Is it the same reason? People always change, no one is unchanging, it's just that the degree of change is different. Asuka felt like she had gotten the hang of it. Go and chat with aunts or go shopping when you have nothing to do. Luyun continued to look down at the scroll. How can you go shopping and chat with me every day? People have to work. Asuka muttered. Luyun now relies on the royalties to support her family, and she doesn't have to work hard in the hot factory in the summer. But she was not used to quitting her job. She was a little bored at home every day, and she didn't know how to pass the time. Grow flowers and grass, and if it doesn't work, go and buy a store. Do some small business or something. Luyun made a suggestion casually. His mother was too idle. Find something for her to pass the time, and she won't always nag in his ear. This suggestion is not bad. Asuka's eyes lit up. I'll go out and look for some suitable small businesses later. Hearing that his mother was interested in doing business, Luyun suddenly had an idea. Actually, I know 2 good small businesses. I wonder if you want to try them. Hearing this, Asuka instantly became interested. What small business? Tell me about it. You can open a flower shop, mainly selling chrysanthemums, carnations, and lilies. Open a flower shop. This is a good idea, but why should you mainly sell these kinds of flowers? Asuka was puzzled. Luyun shook his head and laughed without answering. What is the other business? Asuka thought that the flower shop business was okay, but she wanted to hear what the other business was. You can also open a clothing store or a garment factory, mainly selling and making morning clothes, black clothes. What? Asuka was surprised for a while, and when she reacted, she was immediately furious. You silly boy, what are you thinking about? Asuka twisted Luyun's ear and scolded him. Chrysanthemums are given to the dead, carnations are given to the injured and sick, and black clothes are the clothes that must be worn when mourning the dead. Neither of the two businesses is not sad. Asuka couldn't help beating him even if she wanted to. Hey, it hurts. Luyun was twisted so hard that he grimaced and admitted his mistakes repeatedly. Asuka then let go of his ear in a bad mood. Now that World War II is approaching, there will be deaths in the future. Ordinary people want to make money and don't want to commit to booze. These two businesses are indeed not to be missed. Luyun felt like crying but had no tears. Why did he get beaten for no reason? Making money. It's not shabby. Mom, you are too sensitive. Luyun rubbed his. Erduo's eyes were full of resentment. You make a shitty amount of money. Tell me who will buy these sad things now. Asuka glared at him fiercely. First find out the distribution sources. When your store is fully opened, you may not have to worry about not being able to sell them. Luyun couldn't help but smile as he spoke, but the next moment Asuka pinched his cheek and scolded him severely. Fortunately, Asuka finally listened to some of the suggestions and felt that the flower shop was worth doing. In addition, she also liked flowers, so she thought of opening a flower shop. However, she strongly rejected the suggestion of selling chrysanthemums and white flowers. Looking at Asuka's back as she left the house, Luyun couldn't help but whispered. Stupid mother. You will soon understand which flowers sell best. 3 days later, a series of harsh thunders were heard by a remote river. Chidori. Luyun held lightning in his hand, his feet burst with chakra, and he rushed forward at an extremely exaggerated speed. The blue palm covered with lightning accurately pierced into the target. Luyun. A girl's cry suddenly came from a distance. When he noticed someone approaching, the 3 magatama Sharingan in Luyun's eyes instantly faded. I don't know if it was the joy after fully mastering the A-level ninjutsu, or the joy of seeing someone coming. Luyun's face was full of smiles, and he waved vigorously at Kushina who was jogging over. You are here. Kushina looked at him with a silly smile. Didn't you say you would come to see me in 2 days? Why are you here now? Luyun took the initiative to approach her, then looked around Kushina, and then praised her with a playful smile. Hey, what a beautiful dress. I didn't see you wearing it when you were in school. Kushina smiled shyly after receiving Luyun's praise. She wore this new dress on purpose today. If I don't come, won't you take the initiative to find me? How can a boy be like you? Do you have to let others come to you if you want to learn skills? Kushina put her hands on her hips, pretending to be dissatisfied, but the corners of her mouth were raised high, and her arrogant little look was very cute. Isn't it the same? I'll come to you next time, right? Hee. This is better. Kushina hummed, with a proud look on her face. Soon, a charred and smoking tree caught her attention. I just seemed to see you holding a ball of lightning in your hand. The tree in front of him was hit with a shockingly large charred hole, which showed that the scene just now was not an illusion. Luyun seemed to have mastered a powerful ninjutsu. The two of them were so busy that they had to face each other. How did you do it? Kushina's face showed shock. It's just a lightning ninjutsu. Luyun laughed casually. It's amazing, you have learned so many ninjutsu. I also want to learn powerful ninjutsu, you teach me. Kushina's eyes were full of admiring stars. Women all admire the strong, and she is no exception. Well, I'll teach you, tree climbing, first. Luyun thought for a while and decided to teach her the basics, starting with controlling chakra. But, you are wearing a skirt today, it may be inconvenient to move. Luyun pointed at the beautiful dress and frowned slightly. Ah, forget it, I'll change into a set of casual clothes tomorrow. Kushina was not in a hurry. Want to learn the sealing technique? I'm well prepared today, okay? Kushina said as she took out 2 small scrolls from her waist. Yeah, I want to learn. Luyun nodded with a happy look on his face. In the original anime, the sealing technique is just a kind of plug-in. This technique is mysterious and cannot be measured by common sense. There is almost no person or thing that cannot be sealed. In the ninja world, no matter how strong you are, even if you are the 10-tailed divine tree, even if you are the ancestor of chakra, the sealing technique can control you completely. Luyun is very envious of the Uzumaki clan's sealing technique. He has been thinking about it since the first day of crossing. Kushina is the only way for him to learn the sealing technique. And it is also the most reliable and ideal way. Call me auntie, and I'll teach you the sealing technique. The sealing technique of the Uzumaki clan is a secret that is not passed on. Kushina felt that she couldn't ask for anything without asking, otherwise it would be too easy for him. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Luyun was stunned for a moment, and then approached Kushina with a wicked look on his face. What do you want to do? Kushina was shocked to step back when she saw Luyun approaching. But soon she found that her back hit a big tree trunk, and she couldn't retreat. Luyun stretched out his hands to imprison her in front of him. Although he didn't do anything, Kushina didn't dare to look at him, and her little heart was beating wildly. Nana, if you play like this, then tomorrow it's my turn to teach you how to practice, so don't blame me for asking you to call daddy. Luyun whispered softly in her ear, and the faint fragrance emanating from Kushina refreshed him. He couldn't help but take a deep breath. Hooligan. Dead pervert. Kushina blushed with shame. She wanted to push Luyun away, but as soon as she started, she suddenly found that she couldn't push him away. Luyun was obviously prepared. At this moment, his hands used chakra to attach to the tree trunk, and his feet used chakra to attach to the ground. It was impossible for Kushina to shake him at the moment. Hee. Nana, what are you doing with your hands? Who of us is the hooligan now? Looking at the white and tender little hands against his chest, Luyun showed a malicious smile on his face. I'm not, I didn't. Stay away from me. Kushina seemed a little panicked. It was not right to put her hands down or not. Single quote. Kushina was originally thinking about whether to kick this rascal away, but the strange feeling from her right hand made her stunned for a moment. So this guy is pretending to be calm. Single quote. She found that Luyun's heartbeat was also extremely fast, and the other party might be more nervous than her at this moment. Kushina was refreshed after discovering this secret, and the shyness and timidity in her heart instantly disappeared by 70% or 80%. Don't you want me to call you aunt? How can I let you hear it clearly if I don't get closer? Luyun still looked malicious. Oh, really? Then call me. I'm listening. Kushina suddenly looked at him with a smile, and the redness on her face even faded by 30%. Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. Luyun's smile froze. Why doesn't this girl play by the rules? Single quote. Seeing Luyun's surprised look, Kushina further confirmed her guess, and the smile on her face suddenly deepened. Hee, why don't you scream? Are you not close enough? Kushina said, actively moving her delicate face closer. The two of them were face to face, almost touching each other. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Luyun was caught off guard by this move, his pupils shrank slightly, and his heart beat. The speed was obviously a bit faster. All these anomalies were caught by Kushina, who was aware of them. At this moment, she was very proud, thinking that she had turned from passive to active, and would soon be able to control Luyun. Are you really not afraid of me? Luyun stared at Kushina with a pair of black eyes, but her cheeks turned red unconsciously. Kushina swallowed her saliva subconsciously. At this moment, she felt a little embarrassed because the two were too close. Just now, she thought Luyun would retreat, but he didn't. Luyun hummed lightly, and his eyes moved down to look at her rosy lips. Kushina was confused by being looked at, and she was thinking quickly about how to deal with it. What does he want to do? He will not kiss me. What should I do? Single quote. Just when Kushina was hesitating whether to evade and retreat, she saw Luyun tilt his head, and the already very ambiguous distance was shortened again. The two could even smell each other's breath. Luyun was getting closer and closer, and Kushina was also retreating a little bit, but her back was already against the tree trunk, so where could her head retreat to? No. Kushina was frightened by the pink lips that were so close that she turned her head away, and her eyes were subconsciously tightly closed. Weren't you so arrogant just now? Why are you scared now? Luyun whispered softly in her ear, and the warm breath made Kushina sweat profusely, and some very strange feeling arose spontaneously. Has anyone told you that you are cute when you blush and shy? As soon as these words came out, they suddenly exploded in Kushina's heart like a huge bell, and she subconsciously widened her eyes, with shock written all over her face. Has anyone ever told you that your red hair is also very beautiful? Another sigh, Kushina's pupils shrank into needles in an instant, and the two bewitching words echoed in her mind. What I want to tell you is. Luyun hadn't finished speaking when his nose had already touched her ear. I like. The strength of the white and tender little hand on her chest suddenly faded, Kushina's eyes rolled up, and the whole person went limp. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Luyun hurriedly supported her, and when he looked closely, he saw that the other party was already unconscious. The heart pumped blood too hard, causing the blood to surge rapidly and affect the brain, and the person fell into a coma directly. It's a big deal. Luyun couldn't help laughing. The nerveless Kushina would actually faint because of shyness like Hinata Hyuga. This was something he didn't expect. But then he thought that his offensive just now was indeed a bit too fierce. It was the first time that the little girl was teased with words, so it was normal for her to be thin-skinned and unable to bear it. Let her sit on the ground against the tree. Luyun picked up the scroll on the ground and read it with relish after opening it. Without his palm to support her body, the unconscious Kushina fell to the side. The time of unconsciousness was very short. After all, she was just too excited. After a while, she calmed down and woke up naturally. But when she opened her hazy eyes, she found herself leaning on Luyun's arms. In front of Kushina was a pair of rough hands and a small scroll of sealing technique. The chest and shoulders that were not large but could accommodate her, the hot body temperature, and the strange and pleasant masculine breath made Kushina feel at a loss, but also felt an inexplicable comfort. She didn't know whether to get up now. She was afraid of the embarrassment that would follow, but she was also somewhat obsessed with this chest that she could lean on. How about, wake up later? Single quote. The girlish fragrance on Kushina's body was also very attractive to the young man. Luyun focused his attention on the scroll at this moment. Although there was no dirty thought in his mind, his breathing unconsciously became heavier. My neck is so sore, what should I do? Kushina felt that her neck was a little bit uncomfortable after keeping her neck tilted for a long time. Just when she was trying to pretend to wake up, she felt a pair of hands on her shoulders, and then gently placed her on the lawn. In fact, Luyun had already known that the little girl had woken up. With such close contact, how could he not sense the changes in Kushina's breath? But he didn't expect Kushina to not get up, and even leaned on him and pretended to be unconscious. If there weren't too many things in the scroll that he couldn't understand, and he urgently needed the little red-haired teacher to get up and explain, he would have wanted to see how long this little girl could stay in his arms. Wake up, Kushina. Luyun smiled and patted her cheek. Soon, Kushina cooperated with his performance, and pretended to have just woken up. Facing that meaningful sunny smile, although Kushina was mentally prepared, she still couldn't help blushing shyly. Hooligan, what are you looking at? Kushina pushed the figure who was close to her to the ground, and she hurriedly got up, and she even had the idea of escaping from here. Hey, where do you want to go? You want to run away without even teaching the sealing technique. Luyun hurriedly called her. Kushina hesitated for a moment, and finally chose to stay. If you keep talking nonsense like that, I won't teach you and I won't care about you anymore. Kushina said harshly and glared at him fiercely. It was clearly a compliment before, and it was his true words, how come it became a compliment? The girl's mind was unpredictable, Luyun sighed helplessly. Okay. Today, whatever teacher Kushina said is what it is. Hearing this address, the little expression on Kushina's face almost couldn't be held back, and she almost laughed. I really want to bite this guy to death. At this moment, she was both angry and amused, but she couldn't do anything about this scoundrel. Luyun broke the tree trunk that was pierced by Chidori before, and then invited the girl to sit next to him. Kushina picked up the scroll and began to explain to him what the sealing technique was. Luyun listened very seriously, and he would ask questions on the spot if he didn't understand anything, and Kushina always patiently helped him answer them one by one. By the secluded river, the two young men who stopped bickering got along very well. The sealing technique was more complicated than Luyun had imagined. Just the basics alone, he might not be able to get started even if he studied for 10 days or 8 days. The sealing technique is very difficult. Are you really sure you want to continue learning? As dusk approached, Kushina basically finished explaining the 2 basic scrolls of sealing techniques she brought. She didn't know how much Luyun could understand. Of course I have to learn. I'm never afraid of difficulties. Lu Yun smiled and answered. It's getting late. Let's go back. Lu Yun stood up and patted the dust off his body, and then invited Kushina. You've worked hard today. To show my gratitude, I would like to invite teacher Kushina to dinner together. Haha, you still have a conscience. Kushina couldn't help laughing. But I didn't report to my family in advance, so let's forget it. Isn't this simple? I can just go home with you and tell them, right? Lu Yun shamelessly took her hand. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. But. No buts, after dinner, I'll take you to the night market. Lu Yun pulled her and persuaded her. The little girl soon lost her ability to think, and all she could think about was eating, drinking, and having fun. Lu Yun sent a shadow clone home to report the news, and then took Kushina to the Senju clan. Unexpectedly, they met Uzumaki Mito in front of the manor gate. Is this, the first generation Nine-Tails Jinchuriki? Single quote. Lu Yun politely walked up to Uzumaki Mito and greeted her, but his mind was full of thoughts. At this time, Uzumaki Mito was old and frail, her long hair was no longer bright, and it had even faded its original color. Her dark brown hair indicated that she would not live long, and her life was nearing the end. Why? The chakra fluctuations were so weak. Lu Yun did not feel any sense of oppression from this Uzumaki Mito, which he thought was very abnormal. With his strong mental power, he also had excellent perception. He could clearly feel the oppression from Orochimaru, and could roughly sense whether the chakra was strong or not. As a member of the Uzumaki clan, which is famous in the ninja world for its large amount of chakra, Lu Yun was unable to sense much chakra fluctuation from Uzumaki Mito. And it was not just her. He could not even sense the slightest breath of the nine-tailed demon fox, as if she was just an aging, ordinary, old woman. Without knowing her identity, even a perception-type ninja might not be able to detect her abnormality. In fact, the reason why Lu Yun could not sense the nine-tailed chakra was because the seal in Uzumaki Mito's body was stable. The Jinchuriki was very stable, and the nine-tailed could not affect the outside world at all. I was saying why I felt that her chakra was weaker than mine, and I almost forgot this sealing secret technique. Looking at the diamond mark on Uzumaki Mito's forehead, Lu Yun suddenly realized. That is the yin seal of the Uzumaki clan. This seal secret technique has infinite uses. On weekdays, you only need to inject a certain amount of chakra into it, and the yin seal can make people stay young forever. When needed in battle, it can even serve as the human body's backup hidden energy. Most of Uzumaki Mito's chakra is stored in the yin seal. As long as the nine-tails shows signs of going berserk, she can suppress it with the vast chakra in it. At this age, especially after the death of her husband Senju Hashirama, she no longer uses the chakra in the yin seal to maintain her appearance. Now the chakra has only two uses for her. First, it is still to prevent the nine-tails from going berserk and out of control. Second, to maintain daily physical consumption, so that she can live longer and wait for the new, nine-tails container, to be fully formed. When Lu Yun secretly observed Uzumaki Mito, the old woman was actually looking at him carefully. As the princess of the Uzumaki clan, she naturally has excellent perception. Uchiha Lu Yun. What a good kid. Uzumaki Mito stretched out her hand and gently stroked the hair on Lu Yun's head. She always felt that the kid's big eyes seemed a little too bright. That was the external manifestation of extremely strong mental power and pupil power. Even if Lu Yun didn't open his Sharingan, in Uzumaki Mito's eyes, his eyes and eyes were very different from those of ordinary children. The old man was born in a young age, and the old man was born in a young age. Over the years, Uzumaki Mito has seen many powerful Uchiha warriors, and the one who impressed her the most was of course Uchiha Madara. When she was young, she had to meet Uchiha Madara because of her husband, Hashirama Senju. When that person had not opened his Sharingan, his black eyes were as bright and energetic as Lu Yun, which left a deep impression on her. Her husband once explained privately that this was the external manifestation of the Sharingan's pupil power being strong to a certain extent. Mito grandma, Lu Yun is going to invite me out for dinner tonight. I wonder if it's okay. Kushina lowered her head and asked in a low voice with a red face. Of course, your classmate wants to treat you to a big meal, so why not go? Uzumaki Mito was very considerate and treated Luyun very kindly. Just as the three of them were talking and laughing at the door, a discordant voice sounded quietly at this time. Hey, you shameless brat, you dare to pick up girls at our door. I think you are tired of living. Tsunade strode towards them, her pretty face full of dissatisfaction. It's okay that this Uchiha brat has an ambiguous relationship with Kushina at school, but now he dares to run to their door to pick up girls. Does he really think that there is no one in the Senju clan? Sister Tsunade. Kushina hurriedly greeted her, and Tsunade's hooligan words made her too embarrassed to raise her head. Ah, Shinade Sifu, Lady Tsunade. Luyun bowed and saluted, looking very polite, but Tsunade felt inexplicably unhappy. Especially the accent, it was too outrageous, wasn't it? Tsunade, don't be rude. You are not a good role model for a sister, you are always fussy and have no integrity, what did I teach you? Uzumaki Mito scolded with a stern face, this troublesome girl just likes to talk nonsense, she doesn't learn good things but learn bad things. Grandma. I'm guarding against thieves. If you don't intervene, your little sweetheart will be seduced away by someone. Although Tsunade was a little afraid of her grandmother, she still explained it with a stiff face. Luyun stood there and didn't dare to say anything, his face looked a little confused, as if he didn't know what Tsunade was talking about. Seeing the expression on Luyun's face, Tsunade's unhappiness was obviously a little worse. Oh, you're just pretending, aren't you? I know exactly what you're thinking, little thief. Tsunade bent down slightly, and put her big head in front of Luyun, with an expression of, I've seen through you. Luyun was frightened by the malicious smile and took a small step back, and a stiff smile could not help but appear on her face. Enough, Tsunade. Uzumaki Mito picked up the cane and wanted to hit her head. Tsunade was so scared that she ran away, but she didn't dare to continue teasing the two young people. It's getting late, you guys should go eat quickly. Don't be hungry. Uzumaki Mito smiled gently at the two and waved. Yeah, then we'll leave first, Grandma Mito, you should also go eat quickly. Luyun bowed to her. Soon, the two teenagers walked away under the gaze of Uzumaki Mito. Grandma, the meal is ready, let's go eat. Seeing her grandmother standing there, watching the two people leave for a long time without coming back to her senses, Tsunade reached out and supported her arm. Tsunade, have you noticed that the child's eyes are very special? Uzumaki Mito suddenly spoke softly. Tsunade was obviously stunned when she heard this, but after thinking about it for a while, she gave an answer. With the blood of the Uchiha clan, it is normal for the eyes to be bright and energetic. In fact, Tsunade also felt that the eyes were special, but she couldn't describe it well, so she could only use bright and energetic to summarize it. No, his pupil power is obviously different from that of ordinary people, even stronger than most adult Uchiha clan members. You will find this if you pay close attention and compare it in the future. Uzumaki Mito's face suddenly became very serious. What? Hearing this, Tsunade's face changed. A serious grandmother would never speak nonsense, and she must have seen something when she said this. The Uzumaki clan has a special perception ability called the mind's eye, and her grandmother awakened and mastered this ability. I suspect he may have opened the Sharingan. Impossible. How old is this child now? He is not even a ninja at the moment. Tsunade denied it subconsciously. She was a little bit unconvinced by her grandmother's guess. Then you are wrong. The amount of chakra in his body is comparable to that of an ordinary Jonin. When Uzumaki Mito said this, there was obviously a bit of fear on his face. Nani? Tsunade was stunned at first, and then exclaimed in the next moment. This kind of thing is completely unreasonable. Grandma, did you sense it wrong? Although she knew that Uzumaki Mito was old and confused and the probability of error was very small, Tsunade still couldn't help thinking so. In fact, Uzumaki Mito had repeatedly confirmed it before, and even touched Luyun's body with his hands. There was indeed no possibility of error, although Uzumaki Mito himself did not understand this situation. It can't be wrong. I was a little bit unconvinced at first, but that's the fact. That child is not simple. If you can, you should pay more attention to him. Tsunade was a little indifferent when she heard it. At this moment, she had not recovered from the shock. After a while, She seemed to have thought of something, and looked at Uzumaki Mito and spoke in a trembling voice. Uchiha Ryayun. Uchiha bloodline, Senju bloodline, Grandma, do you think it's because he has these two top bloodlines at the same time? The combination of the strong has led to this kind of mutation. The Uchiha clan and the Senju clan are the two most powerful clans in the ninja world, and the chakra of the people of the two clans is naturally much higher than that of others. Tsunade thought, could it be that Ryayun, this little, has merged two powerful bloodlines and awakened the bloodline limit of the Uchiha clan? This also just proves why he can have the chakra of a Jonin, and the pupil power in his eyes is stronger than others. This seems to be barely explained. Hearing this, Uzumaki Mito's pupils suddenly shrank. This possibility cannot be ruled out. In fact, the Uchiha clan and the Senju clan did not marry during the Warring States period. If it was really like Luyun, the two clans would have intermarried and conspired for great undertakings. Why would they still fight for a big watermelon? But Uzumaki Mito did not dare to deny this possibility. After all, Luyun is now a living example. A 5th grade elementary school student has the chakra of a Jonin and is suspected of awakening the Sharingan. This is too crazy. It's too ridiculous. Uzumaki Mito has a hunch that Luyun's value may be higher than Kushina. This kind of thing must be kept secret, otherwise it will definitely bring disaster to the child. Uzumaki Mito warned, with a very serious expression. I know. Tsunade nodded hurriedly. She could understand this kind of thing without her grandmother telling her. The old man was in a hurry to get out of the house. At this time, Luyun didn't know that most of his old secrets had been exposed. He took his sister to look around the downtown area of Konoha and didn't see any ramen. The most famous Ichiraku ramen restaurant in the original work, at this time, there was not even a shadow. Luyun didn't know if he found the wrong place or it hadn't officially opened yet. In the end, Luyun, who was not short of money, took Kushina to a luxurious barbecue dinner, and the two of them ate very happily. After filling their stomachs, Luyun took her to wander around in the lively night market. When passing by a small jewelry stall, Kushina took a fancy to an exquisite butterfly hairpin, and Luyun took out his wallet and bought it for her without thinking. The things on the stall were not expensive, and Kushina accepted the small gift generously without refusing. Hey! The bracelet is pretty good, how much is it? Luyun took a fancy to a bell bracelet with very delicate workmanship. Except for a few small bells, the rest of the body of this thing is made of gold. This may be the best and most expensive piece of jewelry in the entire stall. The stall owner is obviously using it to fill the storefront. Brother, you have a good eye. This is the treasure of my stall. The female stall owner said, smiling and comparing a number. 28,000. A small bracelet jewelry was actually offered at a super high price of 28,000. This is a bell bracelet made by my mother for me. It is also my dowry gift. My mother died of illness last year. Although I am short of money now, I don't want to sell this thing at a low price. The female stall owner smiled and told the origin of the item. Since this thing is so important to you, why do you still want to sell it? Luyun asked casually. My husband died a few months ago, and there are 2 children in the family now. The female stall owner explained, and the smile on her face looked very bitter, which made Luyun unconsciously sympathize with her. His mother Asuka was in a similar situation to her, but it seemed that her life was obviously more difficult. Or in other words, ordinary people living in the ninja world generally have a hard life, especially widows who have no men to rely on. If it weren't for this, she wouldn't have taken out this precious dowry to sell. Luyun, let's go somewhere else. Kushina gently pulled his arm. In her opinion, this bell bracelet is beautiful, but the price is too expensive. She and Luyun are only primary school students, so they naturally don't have the spare money to buy this precious jewelry. The female stall owner actually doesn't think that Luyun, a young man, can afford to buy this treasure. The explanation just now was just out of politeness. The material is not worth the price, but the workmanship is very delicate. It can be seen that your mother was very careful when making this jewelry. Luyun gave his evaluation after carefully examining the bell bracelet. The gold in the ninja world is not as valuable as imagined, but with the workmanship of this jewelry, it is definitely worth the price. This is a purely handmade jewelry. It may not be possible to make it without real skills, and it requires a lot of energy and time. And the material cost alone is actually not cheap. Are you sure you really want to sell this bracelet? Lu Yun asked seriously. A gentleman does not take away what others like. Unless this woman really wants to sell this jewelry, Lu Yun will consider whether to buy it. Well, for the sake of the child, the mother should understand me. The female stall owner smiled and said, with tears in her eyes. Okay, I want the things. After Lu Yun finished speaking, he took out a stack of bills from his wallet. What? Do you really want to buy this bracelet? Looking at the bills in front of her, the female stall owner's face was full of shock. Are all primary school students nowadays so rich? Or did she meet a rich second generation today? The same expression as hers, and Kushina next to her. She only has a few hundred yuan of pocket money every month, which is enough to buy snacks and small items on weekdays. Just now, a barbecue dinner was enough for her pocket money for a month. Lu Yun was shocked when he paid the bill, and now he directly took out a huge sum of money. Is Lu Yun a hidden rich second generation? Single quote. Kushina's little head couldn't help but have such a thought. Of course, otherwise am I asking so many questions just for fun? Could it be that my sister suddenly changed your mind, don't want to sell it? If you really don't want to sell it, I won't force you. Quote. A gentle smile appeared on Lu Yun's face. No. Brother, you worry too much. I'll pack it for you right away. The female stall owner hurriedly spoke, but tears slipped down unconsciously. Yeah. Lu Yun nodded, stretched out her hand to take the jewelry box handed over with both hands. After leaving the stall, Kushina seemed a little unhappy. What's wrong? Lu Yun smiled and asked knowingly. That's sister, Kushina hesitated. Do you think we shouldn't buy her bracelet? Kushina nodded subconsciously. If we don't buy this thing, it may not be so easy for her to sell it. Lu Yun told the truth. He did make money recently, but that doesn't mean there are many rich people in Konoha. This jewelry mainly attracts young people, but how many of the young people are rich? And the most important thing is, who would patronize such a small stall? They probably don't bother to take a second look when they pass by. She needs money to feed her 2 children. We bought this bracelet to help her through the difficulties, not to take away her precious things. If her mother were still alive, she would definitely support the sister's decision. Because for a mother, nothing in the world is more precious than her own children. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. Quote. When he made these remarks, the expression on Kushina's face was more shocked than when Lu Yun spent a lot of money to buy things. She didn't expect Lu Yun to think more and more comprehensively than she did. There really shouldn't be any psychological burden to buy a bell bracelet. After Kushina figured out the key, her mood obviously turned from cloudy to sunny. Lu Yun, where did you get so much money? She finally remembered to ask this question. Follow me, and you'll know why your brother has money to spend later. Lu Yun showed a mysterious smile on his face. This place is not far from Wu Shanming's bookstore, and he wants to take Kushina there to have a look. Then you buy this bracelet, who do you want to give it to? Kushina spoke more and more quietly, her face became redder and redder, and her head was buried lower and lower. Hee, what do you think? Quote. In a quiet corner where no one was, Lu Yun took the initiative to approach her. I don't know. Kushina fiddled with the hem of her skirt with both hands, her voice still as soft as a mosquito's hum. The next moment, Lu Yun opened the jewelry box directly, and then took out the golden bell bracelet. The crisp bell sound, falling into Kushina's ears, seemed so pleasant. The two of them looked a little shy, and the two of them were still very happy. Under the dim street lights, pedestrians who occasionally walked through this small street could see a pair of blushing young lovers. The two people standing opposite each other looked a little restrained, and the girl kept her head down and didn't dare to see anyone. Her little hands kept fiddling with the hem of her skirt, as if it was something very interesting. Lu Yun held the bell bracelet in one hand and slowly stretched out the other hand to take the initiative to hold one of Kushina's white and tender hands. The cold white and tender hand was trembling slightly. There was a slight instinctive struggle when he just held her hand, but as Kushina turned her head to the side, her arm immediately lost the strength to struggle. This bracelet used to carry the precious friendship between a mother and daughter. Now it has a new owner, and that beauty has become a thing of the past. Now it is just an ordinary piece of jewelry, but I will give it another emotion and make it a precious thing again. Today, I want to give it to someone who cherishes it. Lu Yun expressed his emotions sincerely and boldly. He gently pulled Kushina's palm closer. Kushina, are you willing to accept this precious thing? Although Lu Yun did not express his feelings directly and clearly, these words were more deeply rooted in people's hearts than direct confession. He did not immediately force the bell bracelet on Kushina's wrist, but first expressed his feelings, and then sincerely asked Kushina's wishes. The best emotion should be mutual consent, not self-touching. This bell bracelet is already a token of love. It carries another kind of love and is no longer as simple as a piece of jewelry. If you want to give it away, you need the other party to nod their heads in agreement. The process cannot be sloppy and casual, and things cannot be forced on others. Facing the affectionate confession of the big boy in front of her, Kushina's face unconsciously showed joy, and her body began to tremble slightly because of the fluctuation of emotions. The precious things should be given to me. The person who cherishes is also me. Single quote. Is Lu Yun confessing to me? Should I agree to him? Single quote. Kushina's whole brain was running fast, and her heart was beating violently, but after a moment, she seemed to think of something, and the whole person gradually calmed down, and fell into a long silence. Should I agree to him? Single quote. But is it too early? Teachers and elders all say that you can't fall in love too early. If I agree to him now, will I be not reserved enough? What if he doesn't cherish it? Single quote. No, I can't agree to him, it's too fast. Single quote. I'm not ready. I can't do this. Single quote. Kushina's arms began to struggle subconsciously. Lu Yun was obviously stunned for a moment, and his originally steady breathing became a little disordered and rapid. He didn't expect such a result. He didn't want to let go, but Kushina felt the gradually increasing grip, and her original resistance suddenly increased a little. Feeling her struggle, Lu Yun's heart twitched obviously, and his expression on his face was somewhat lost and uncomfortable. I'm too anxious. Single quote. There are still many days to go, and there are still many opportunities to get along. There is no need to rush. Thinking this clearly, he immediately loosened his palm. He was afraid of scaring Kushina, afraid of hurting her, and even more afraid of causing her disgust. But the moment he loosened his palm, Kushina instantly felt empty in her heart. The next moment, her heart suddenly felt a sharp pain, and she bit her lips subconsciously in pain. The uncomfortable feeling was spreading throughout her body at an extremely fast speed. She looked up at Lu Yun, but saw that he lowered his head, and his originally bright and spirited eyes dimmed a little. Am I not your cherished person? Why did you let go so easily? Single quote. Kushina stared at Lu Yun with red eyes, but her footsteps subconsciously stepped back several steps. Noticing Kushina's strangeness, Lu Yun also looked at her at the first time. Both of them seemed to have the same emotion in their eyes, disappointed and unbelievable at the same time. Kushina felt that he should not let go. Why did the word, cherished person, become a lie the next moment after she said it? But Lu Yun felt that she should not struggle, let alone retreat. The reason why he let go was just to respect her wishes, and he did not dare to scare her, let alone force her. It was because of cherishing that he chose to temporarily. Xing let go. This was the first collision between sensibility and rationality, and both of them seemed to be in a bad mood. Kushina opened her mouth to question him in person, but she couldn't say anything no matter what. Her throat was choked, and tears fell down uncontrollably. Looking at the crying girl, Lu Yun felt his heart trembling. He subconsciously walked forward and unconsciously stretched out his palm. But before he could get close to touch Kushina, he saw the other party retreat a few steps again, and the next moment he turned around and fled from this place. Lu Yun wanted to call her, but looking at the running back, it was obvious that there was not much room for retention. He did not chase her, because now both sides needed to calm down alone. The outstretched arm fell down weakly, and Lu Yun looked at the golden bracelet in his hand with a dull look, and he stood there for a long time without being able to come back to his senses. After a long time, he carefully put the bracelet back into the jewelry box, and then returned home with a heavy heart. Seeing Luyun coming home, Asuka took the initiative to greet him, but before she could speak, she immediately noticed the strangeness on Luyun's face. Son, what's wrong with you? Why do you look so depressed? Asuka's face was full of curiosity. Didn't my son go out for dinner with his classmates tonight? Why is he so depressed? It's as if he's broken in love. Nothing. Luyun shook his head gently, not wanting to explain too much, and in fact he was too embarrassed to say it. He ignored Asuka's repeated questions, and after returning to the room, he directly locked the sliding door. This child. Asuka frowned, and didn't dare to knock on the door to disturb him for a while. I can only wait until tomorrow to ask him carefully. Luyun sat in front of the desk and took the 2 scrolls of sealing techniques placed on it. This was given by Kushina. She suggested that you can study these basic knowledge more when you have nothing to do. She admitted that there might be omissions in what she said, and Luyun needed to take the scroll back to study it carefully. Luyun split a shadow clone, picked up the 2 scrolls and began to read them carefully from beginning to end. Immersed in the practice, the frustration and loss in my heart obviously subsided by 70%. In a dark corner in front of the Senju clan, a red-haired girl squatted on the ground, buried her head in her arms and sobbed silently. After a long time, the girl, whose eyes were obviously swollen from crying, stood up straight. I will never pay attention to that liar again. Kushina made this vow with a look of resentment. She wiped the tears and snot on her face with her hands, and then slowly walked into the Senju clan. The next morning, after his daily morning exercises, Luyun arrived at the gate of the Senju clan early. The two had agreed yesterday that he would come to find Kushina today and teach her the skill of climbing a tree. Unfortunately, he waited at the gate for half a day, but still couldn't see Kushina. Uzumaki Mido found him and came out with a cane to chat with him for a while. She said that Kushina seemed to have insomnia last night, and she didn't fall asleep until it was getting light, and she probably couldn't wake up in the morning. Then Uzumaki Mido asked about the two of them, why was Kushina crying? Luyun hesitated for a long time and couldn't explain it. Fortunately, she didn't ask any more questions, which made Luyun obviously relieved. He didn't plan to waste time because he couldn't see Kushina in the morning. He started to practice body training again under the scorching sun. Youth should not be wasted. Before the summer vacation, he asked Might Dai to formulate scientific and reasonable daily body training tasks for him. If he completed all the tasks, he would not have much free time. So sometimes he would split a shadow clone to cooperate with him to deal with some trivial matters outside of practice, while the main body ensured that the daily body training tasks were completed. In the whole Konoha, there is no one who can be as reckless as him. Not to mention children of the same age, even adults can't be more reckless than him. In his previous life, he was also very reckless for a better life, but there were many people in China who were more reckless than him. He couldn't get much wealth and status. Now that he has lived a new life, he still retains the habit of involution, but this time he no longer thinks about revolving around some external things. In this world, strength is the foundation of survival. He needs to roll up the power of self-preservation as soon as possible, and then he can realize his ambitions and aspirations with his understanding of the plot. At noon, Luyun accompanied his mother Asuka to eat a Chinese dinner at home, and then he spent another hour writing a plot of Dragon Ball. After finishing his daily work, he walked out of the house and planned to go to the Senju clan again. However, when he was about to reach his destination, he happened to meet two figures. Luyun-kun. Orochimaru showed a little surprise on his face. Orochimaru. Teacher. Luyun met Orochimaru and Rope Tree at the intersection. Hee. How did Luyun-kun appear here? Orochimaru asked with a smile. Ah. I just happened to pass by. Luyun scratched his head and explained with a smile. Just passed by. I don't think so. Rope Tree crossed his hands on his chest and showed a meaningful smile. Don't you want to find Kushina? I took her out for a big dinner last night, and it seems that I made her cry. Was that person you? Rope Tree directly pulled out someone's underpants. Hearing this, Orochimaru unconsciously showed a strange look on his face. Luyun was embarrassed and didn't know how to explain for a while. Okay. Orochimaru waved his hand to help him out. Teacher Orochimaru, where do you want to go? Luyun took the initiative to change the subject. There is a small task that needs to be carried out outside the village. Orochimaru explained casually. After he finished speaking, he seemed to think of something, and looked at Luyun with a wicked smile. Does Luyun have time today? Orochimaru's question made him feel a little surprised, but after a little daze for a while, Luyun nodded gently and said that he had time every day. In that case, do you want to go out of the village with us? Orochimaru licked the corner of his mouth and took the initiative to invite him. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Luyun didn't expect Orochimaru to let him go out of the village, and based on what he said just now, it seems that he intends to let him participate in the mission. To be honest, he was very curious about Orochimaru's purpose, but he planned to go to Kushina in the afternoon. Why? Do you have a date in the afternoon? Orochimaru smiled teasingly. No. Teacher Orochimaru invited me, even if I don't have time, I have to make time. Luyun laughed awkwardly. He still hopes to learn ninjutsu knowledge from Orochimaru in the future. He has already spoken, so he naturally cannot not give him face. Haha. Very good. Orochimaru was very satisfied with his attitude. He thought Luyun was very interesting and very good at talking. HMPH. Flatterer. Rope tree pie. He curled his lips and couldn't help but mutter. Luyun glanced at him slightly, not intending to argue with him. Secretly looking at the direction of the Senju clan, Luyun sighed in his heart. Well, let her have a good rest for a while. Under the current public eye, it is not easy for him to split his shadow clone, so he can only wait until tomorrow to find Kushina. Teacher, when did you accept another apprentice behind my back? Why haven't you ever told me about this? Shungshu looked at Orochimaru with a face full of resentment. Hehe. I teach Luyun some knowledge, so it's reasonable for him to call me Orochimaru teacher. Orochimaru explained with a chuckle. He didn't deliberately point out the relationship between the two, but Shungshu understood the meaning of his words. The teacher did not accept a new apprentice, and he was still the teacher's only disciple. Can you tell me about the mission to leave the village? Do I need to prepare anything? Luyun quickened his pace to catch up with the two, and asked Orochimaru what he meant. The mission is kept secret for now, and you don't need to prepare anything. After leaving the village, you just need to be a spectator. After Orochimaru said this, a special smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Ah. Luyun forced himself to suppress his curiosity, nodded and said no more. Inside the Senju clan. After lunch, Kushina seemed a little anxious and looked out the gate from time to time. Grandma Mito had told her during lunch that Luyun had waited for her outside the gate for a whole morning. When she first heard the news, Kushina was very happy, and most of the unhappiness of last night disappeared. Luyun did not forget the agreement between the two, which proved that he still valued himself. However, what happened last night made Kushina very angry. Luyun waited for a whole morning in vain, and she felt relieved and proud. But as time went on, Kushina's pride began to turn into anxiety and uneasiness. Because Luyun didn't seem to come to her in the afternoon. Is he angry with me? Is he blaming me for not going out this morning? I overslept. Kushina hid in a corner not far from the entrance of the clan. She was restless at this moment. She was no longer happy and proud. Luyun didn't come. She was really anxious. Asshole, what do you mean by cherished person? He is obviously a big liar. You told Mito grandma that you would come to see me in the afternoon. You lied all the time. No, he normally wouldn't break the appointment. Maybe he encountered something. Something delayed him, so he didn't come. She was in internal friction for the whole afternoon. She had mixed feelings in her heart. She thought about the good of the other party for a while, and then thought about the bad of the other party. The figure of the boy was all over her mind. Unconsciously, Luyun had completely entered her heart, and Kushina's emotions were also affected by his words and deeds. In fact, both of them are in similar situations, but one knows how to divert attention, while the other is still immature. Without anyone to guide him, he will inevitably have wild thoughts, which leads to a continued low state. Thanks for watching.